Hey, Who Dat Nation, Brendan Boylan here with Bob Rose, and we're here for the Saints News Network halftime report. Your halftime score, the New York Giants 7, the New Orleans Saints 7. And Bob, something we talked about in the pregame was the kicking woes for the New Orleans Saints, and they could easily be up 10-7. And if they chose to kick instead of going for it on fourth down early in the game, potentially 13-7. But aside from that, your assessment of the team so far?
I'm shocked that we didn't see a more intense effort from New Orleans on both sides of the football. Lots of missed opportunities on the Giants' half of the 50. Now we're not talking red zone opportunities, but we're starting to see – we have seen an infuriating trend out of this offense all year long. Unable to make plays when they need them the most to maintain possession. And that falls on Jameis Winston. That falls on wide receiver separation. That falls on play calling. I could not believe that I wasn't surprised to see Sean Payton go for it and pass up a 47-yard field goal opportunity. But they tried to draw the Giants off sides. They had them. That's on Ruiz and Jameis to get that damn ball snapped. And it's not the first time we've seen that this year. So they instead wasted a timeout. Then, just a very predictable play call. And we're seeing Sean Payton have zero confidence in Jameis or his offense. And like I said, it's an infuriating trend, and I'm frankly very disappointed with the lack of intensity on both sides of the ball so far.
Well, defensively, you saw them do a really good job. The New Orleans Saints do a really good job stopping the run for a majority of the first and second quarter. But Daniel Jones, who we talked about, a lot of pressure on him in a situation that he's never really been in. He's missing some key pieces. He's playing in a very hostile environment, maybe the most hostile environment he's played in his NFL career. And he's made some good throws, and the touchdown resulting on just John Ross putting on the afterburners. They said on the broadcast, 4.22 speed, but Paulson Adebo in poor coverage, a rookie mistake, and saw a question come up across, not a touchdown. The ref called it as the ball was out. The actual call, and it's going to annoy some fantasy football owners potentially, is that Daniel Jones completed the pass to John Ross. Ross fumbled and then recovered his fumble in the end zone for a touchdown. So if you have Daniel Jones, no fantasy points for that touchdown, but that explains the call. Outside of that touchdown, Bob, what have you seen from the defense? What are some things you've liked by the defense thus far?
Well, first of all, on that touchdown, Adebo was only beaten by half a step. He was staying with Ross pretty well down the field. I put it on more on Marcus Williams for a little bit late reaction over the top. And Daniel Jones did throw a very accurate pass. And then don't discount the fact that after that ball was fumbled, Adebo, made no effort to get to the ball. He had the angle to get to that fumble before Ross, but he gave up on the play out of frustration. So again, that's a mental error on Adebo, a physical error on Marcus Williams. Outside of that, I thought the Saints got really good interior push stalemate from their defensive tackles against the running game, and they've kind of shut down Barkley. They haven't gotten the pressure on Daniel Jones that I wanted them to get and that I expected them to get. Thus it's allowed DJ to get a little bit into a rhythm. I would expect Dennis Allen to dial up some more blitzes, especially on the inside blitzes with DeMario, maybe Pete Werner in the second half to kind of disrupt that rhythm that Daniel just has gotten into. And you need to see the linebackers a little bit more active in the running game. Like you said, in the latter parts of that second quarter, the Giants were able to gain a little bit of traction on the ground. It's not going to be enough to win the game, but you don't want New York to establish a balance in this second half.
Well, the New Orleans Saints with a little bit of a blow on the offensive side, Tony Jones Jr., who we talked about in the pregame, potentially seeing his role grow in a game like this. He gets carted off the field. So you see 13, 14 carries for Alvin Kamara in the first half, and an offense that still is just stagnant despite what was a great throw and catch for the touchdown in Juwan Johnson.
That throw, and they said it on the broadcast too. Jameis has completed his last 7 passes, so maybe we will see Sean Payton finally open up the passing game in the second half a little bit. You're starting to see a tiny bit of a bounce in Jameis's step, which I like to see. And anytime you have Jabril Peppers in one-on-one coverage, you target Jabril Peppers. He is a wonderful athlete, but he is not solid in man-to-man coverage at all. So it doesn't matter whether it's Juwan Johnson or one of your slot receivers. You need to target Jabril Peppers in that second half. And as far as leaning on Kamara and the running game, you pray for Tony Jones. I think at the very least he's out for the rest of this game. Dwayne Washington is not going to be your complimentary answer. So you need to rely on Kamara more in the running game than what you maybe anticipated coming in. And I really like the game that Deontay Harris is playing too. They're moving him around the lineup. Look for him to maybe capitalize on some mismatches against that Giants secondary in the second half.
Do you expect to see a little bit more of Taysom Hill the way that the Saints used him at the end of week 3 with only having Kamara coming out of the backfield?
Yeah, I think so, because you need to give AK-41 a little bit of a blow at some point. Even if you don't take him off of the field, you sort of take him out of the play. But at the same time, you have to have the threat of a running game. Taysom Hill provides that threat much, much more than Dwayne Washington does. And also look for maybe an end around from a Kenny Stills or a Deontay Harris to see if the Giants are over pursuing and perhaps take advantage of that.
Well, the screen game, I've always liked to say, is just an extended run play as well. You can see more of that with guys like Harris and Stills, as you mentioned. All right, Bob, just to wrap it up here at the halftime, what are some things the Saints should do, or some things that you anticipate to change it up and get some sort of pep in their step offensively? Because despite you saying that Jameis has completed his last 7 passes, this has been something we've seen for 4 weeks now, or 3.5 weeks now, that the Saints offense is just not clicking.
No, they're not. And it wouldn't surprise me. The Saints get the ball first to start the second half. It wouldn't surprise me to see a screenplay on the first or second play right out of the locker room. To perhaps maybe slip Kamara into the open field. Get him a look in open space, or a wide receiver screen to a Stills or a Deontay. You hit on a couple of those. I see the Giants safeties have been creeping up. So, you need to take advantage of that. You need to burn that defense, with a deep play. So I would expect maybe a deep look on the first series as well. Something this offense needs a big play, as you said, to put a little more pep in their step.
Only 3 big plays so far this season for the New Orleans Saints. That's towards the bottom of football. Big play being defined as a play more than 20 yards in the air or more than 15 yards on the ground. So the Saints have really struggled in that category. They do get the ball first in the second half. Bob, you're expecting a big play down the field at some point. For me, I'm going to want to see a little bit more out of Jameis Winston in the intermediate. You could see his eyes go deep. The coverage by the Giants secondary, by the way, has been very good throughout the game. And we mentioned the athletes that they have in the secondary. But whether that's separation, whether that's Jameis being able to step in the pocket and deliver a throw, I have to see something a little bit more in the intermediate, looking to a guy like Kenny Stills, who's had a quiet day thus far. All right, Bob, we're halfway through. How do you see this thing playing out?
Well, we talked about offensively. Like I said, defensively, I think Dennis Allen is going to dial up some more blitzes to prevent Daniel Jones from getting into or staying in the rhythm that he's in. I want to see more intensity from Marshawn Lattimore. He was beaten on a few plays. Actually, I know everybody's going to focus on the deep ball under a Debo's coverage, but Golladay has made some plays against Lattimore. Lattimore has to play much more aggressively and lock that down. You need to continue to stop the run. You cannot let Saquon Barkley get into the open field or let New York establish any kind of balance.
I think one of the biggest things is something that we've said at the Saints News Network for years is like special teams has to be special. I saw it on my podcast, the Who Dat Discussion this week, that if I had to pick an X factor in this game, a wild card X factor was going to be Deontay Harris for his ability in the return game. I just think he's due for one. He's had so many where he's been so close. One more slip tackle, he's taken it for 6. So I think Harris is going to have to set the Saints up in great field position offensively. Obviously, some of that comes on the defense, but Harris has the ability to flip the field and really change the game. Well, that's all the time we have for the Saints News Network halftime report. That's Bob Rose. You can follow him where?
Bob Rose over on Facebook and at Bobby R 2613 on Twitter.
And for myself, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BT Boylan. Follow all of our work over at the Saints News Network, si.com/NFL/Saints. We'll have so much for you in the post game. Hope you guys enjoy the second half.